because you have to identify, aside from the layers, of course, the characteristic cell. But you have seen this before, right? Or the submucosa, which is made up of dense irregular collagenous tissue. So this is, again, mucosa. You have three sublayers. You have the lining epithelium, okay, lining epithelium, and then this one is lamina propria, but it is occupied by gastric glands. So followed by the third layer, which is your smooth muscle muscularis mucosa. So that is mucosa, and then this is your submucosa. There's no gland in the submucosa for the stomach. But you have to concentrate on the mucosa, especially on the lamina propria, because it is occupied by your gastric glands, which is important for digestion. You will notice, class, that the middle portion, these are gastric glands, gastric glands in the lamina propria. Now, these gastric glands, if you notice, they are darker or basophilic in the lower portion, the basal portion, and pinkish in the middle portion. Pinkish because of the numerous or abundance of your parietal cells in the middle portion of your gastric gland. Okay, let's use high power to identify your gastric gland or your parietal cells. So you see, they are all waving at you, looking with their eyes open. Those are your parietal cells. Theoretically, they are pyramidal shape or triangular shape, but due to the abundance of cells in this gland, they are deformed as globular shape, right? It looks like globular, but actually they are pyramidal in shape. You see the acidophilic cytoplasm and large nucleus. Okay, parietal cell, that's the characteristic cell of your stomach, also called as oxyntic cell, right? And then there are some areas that are bluish or basophilic cytoplasm, and they are more numerous at the basal portion. So these are your chief cells. Okay, so if you want to see them on a little higher, so these are your chief cells, parietal cells. Parietal cells, chief cell. The basal portion, you have here the chief cells, and you have smaller amount of your parietal cell. Okay, so your chief cells, the one that secretes pepsinogen, parietal cell secretes hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. Okay? Okay, so that's for your lamina propria. You know, that's lamina propria containing gastric glands, submucosa, also you have blood vessel, no glands. Instead, you have Meissner's plexus, and then you go down, that's your Meissner's. Go down, you have three layers. Scanner ko na lang. Three layers for the stomach, inner oblique, middle circular, and outer longitudinal. Okay? So, here's the oblique. This one is oblique, this one is circular, and this one are your longitudinal. And in between circular and longitudinal, you have mesenteric plexus, Auerbach's plexus. Okay, that's for your layer, and then although not prominent, tunica serosa, that should be serosa, but it's got. Theoretically, it's serosa. Duodenum. The first portion of the small intestine is your duodenum. Theoretically, you have the gland in the lamina propria, which is present. This is the mucosa, wherein the lamina propria contains glands. What type of glands? Intestinal glands, or crypts of Lagerton. Then followed by the submucosa. For duodenum, you should have gland here, which is called as for submucosa? Brunner's gland, remember? And then followed by the tunica muscularis. Kaya lang, Mang Raquel, pahingi po nung old duodenum. Old luma duodenum. These are new slides wherein they submitted portion of duodenum without the gland in the submucosa. Okay? And what is this portion, class? This one, from the mucosa down to the submucosa that forms the fold. What fold is that?
It's your
Plica circularis. Actually, the submucosa should be only up to this portion, but they extend forward to form a fold, and that is your, let's go up, plica. This is your plica circularis, wherein it is made up of submucosa and mucosa. This okay, let's skip first the duodenum. Let's proceed to jejunum. Look at the prominent plica circularis. That's your plica circularis. Look, if you go to the basal portion, that's your mucosa layer. Submucosa layer, sorry. This is your submucosa, but extending as your plica circularis. Right? And where's the villi? These are individual villi, made up of lining epithelium and lamina propria in between. Okay? You have intestinal glands. Yan po. Intestinal glands, since this is a small intestine, the second portion of your small intestine, you can see the intestinal glands are the crypts of liver cone. And then you see the darker pinkish color, darker pinkish or more reddish should be, which is occupied by your Paneth cell. So the characteristic cell of your small intestine is Paneth cell. Okay? Although in duodenum, the first portion, it's a little scanty in number, but once they go into duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, they increase in number. Okay? So that's your jejunum, mucosa, lining epithelium, simple columnar from the stomach down to the colon. It is lined by simple columnar. Lamina propria occupied by crypts of liver cone or small intestinal gland. And then submucosa. And then you have here the tunica muscularis. You can see the prominent auerbach's plexus. See? This one. These are your auerbach's plexus or your mesenteric plexus. Ulit-ulit, no? Ayan. Okay, so that's your in between tunica muscularis and tunica muscularis. Between longitudinal and circular. That's your auerbach's. So this is your submucosa. That's your Meissner's plexus. No gland. This is jejunum. And then you have the mucosa. This, you notice pinkish basal portion, that's your Paneth cell. So you see them at the base of the intestinal gland. At the base. So they're occupying your lamina propria. Let's try it on high power.